all the way from Canada, the United States, North America. For those of you in other parts of the world, I don't know what time it is to you, but welcome to Focus on Liberia. We have a very, very beautiful show for you here tonight, and I can assure you that we have some very fine Liberians from different walks of life who will be chiming in on our topic for tonight. My name is Leo Nupolu Johnson, and I'm going to be your moderator for tonight. And we have our guest, Robert Gagwa, we have Zui Neal, and then we have Kevin Nyanswa, who will be all taking on our topic for tonight from very different angles, from their own perspectives. And just so you know, I will take a moment here to introduce them before we go any further, so you know who we're talking about or who will be talking to you as they take on this debate or this topic for tonight. All right, so we have Zui Neal. Zui is a stellar professional with extensive experience when it comes to developing, managing, and implementing programs. Zui also, her experiences goes as far as international military and training manager in Liberia with the U.S. Embassy. She also worked as a training instructor, Liberia National Police, and then she also worked as recruiting and vetting officer for the formation of the new Armed Forces of Liberia by Dine Corp. We have Kevin. Kevin holds a master's. Zui is actually a candidate also for master's degree at Georgetown University. Kevin Nyanswa holds a master's degree in global affairs from the Monk School of Global Affairs and Public Policy at the University of Toronto in Canada. He's also a seasoned development professional with vast experience in international development, economics, and global affairs. So Kevin will be coming at this also from his own experience and background. And of course, I don't need to introduce Robert Gagwa. If you've ever watched Focus on Liberia, you know who Robert Gagwa is. So I don't even need to go any further in introducing him. But before we go any further from this point, I will turn to our panelists just to emphasize what they want to emphasize in their introductions, even though I've had the chance to. So Robert, I will start with you as the first person.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation, Leo. I appreciate that. To my Focus on Liberia family, thank you for the amazing job that you guys are doing on this platform, using your platform to not only educate, but inform Liberians and discuss the issue from a variety of perspective. And also thanks to my
All right. I know Robert is having some issues with his link with the internet, so we will wait and see if Robert comes back in. I think he froze there. So Robert, are you back in?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm not sure if I did what you asked. Am I making an opening statement or just?
No, I just wanted you to just quickly tell us anything you wanted to emphasize about your introduction rather than do an opening statement.
Oh yeah, but I mean, a lot of folks already know I'm a loving Liberian. I at heart I'm a humanitarian. I've been involved in the been a part of moving our country forward for the past 8 years with my organization. I work back home, and professionally, I work for one of the biggest hotel brands in the world, Marriott International, and I'm also the vice president of the Liberian Association in metropolitan Atlanta, Georgia.
All right.
So thank you.
Thank you very much, Robert. Zui, I will take you next. You're on mute, Zui, just so you know.
I'm sorry, technology. First of all, thank you all for having me, and I'm excited and look forward to the discussion. I think Leo pretty much covered all the basics when it came to the introduction, so I'm just glad to be here, and I look forward to the discussion tonight.
Thank you very much, Zui. Kevin, I'll take you next. You're on mute as well, Kevin.
Thank you, Leo, and thanks to the management of this platform. Leo has said everything about me. I'm a development professional. I have worked in Liberia for the past 5-6 years, actually trying to ensure that we understand issues of social engagement and community development from the perspective of actually doing some research that will enforce policy. And I was just there last year and did some work with the UNDP, mainly as a focus person on policy to help advance Liberia's development agenda. I'm quite happy to be here this evening discussing this topic because I think it's one of the topics that we need to be discussing in Liberia to move our nation forward. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you very much. And I would just like to make a full disclosure here. Kevin is not affiliated with any political party in Liberia. Neither is he actively involved in politics in any way, shape, or form. Zui also is not affiliated or connected with any political party in Liberia, and she is not active in politics, but in Liberia is all of our responsibility. So that does not negate the fact that they are also actively involved when it comes to Liberia as a whole and where our country goes and the future of our country as professionals contributing their quota. I just wanted to make that clear. Robert, I don't know, I'm not sure about you. I just wanted to give that disclosure. I don't know if you're affiliated with any political institution or not.
No, I'm not. I'm not affiliated with any political party.
Thank you. So Robert also is not. So I'm excited for an objective conversation tonight. I myself, I am not affiliated with any political party or group in Liberia, but Liberia is our common denominator. So we all contribute from our professional backgrounds. Without any ado, I will go into the background for our topic tonight. The culture of no debate in Liberia, right? On all spectrums, social, economic, politics, on all spectrums. So we'll be looking at I will read for you. I will just quickly go over a little background document for you to set the stage for our panelists. The 2005 elections were the first Liberian elections in over a century in which the civic environment was considered conducive and tolerant for open debate of ideas. Even though observers feared that the post-conflict environment was not conducive to holding elections, and that a serious program of reconciliation, rehabilitation, and constitutional reform should have preceded them, successful elections were conducted nevertheless. As a result, one can argue that the lack of genuine debate in Liberia's history is no surprise, since the country was founded on the perception that it was a democracy when in fact, oligarchy was the reality. By 1989, the country was engulfed by a bloodless civil war that would last for almost 2 decades, resulting in the death of over 250,000 people, thousands of children recruited as child soldiers, and over 1 million people in refugee and displaced camps. Despite these events, we continue to see a society where debate is either completely misunderstood for personal attack, defamation of character, betrayal, disloyalty, and hatred, or it is seen as something that should not be tolerated at all, thereby leading to often violent and confrontational interactions we are experiencing at all levels of our society. Now, I would just read a simple dictionary definition of debate. Again, like I said, for our viewers out there so that we all have a common premise. I know our panelists will take it from their own angles, but according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, debate is an organized discussion on a particular topic in a public or private gathering in which opposing arguments are put forward based on facts and reasonable analysis to inform decision-making. These are not my words. I'm quoting the Merriam-Webster dictionary. So this is not Leo's definition. But let's get straight to it. Now, before I have a quick outline to just give you, because I know some of you are history buffs out there, our viewers, and you come back at us. But the first ever election on September 27, 1847, between J.J. Roberts and Samuel Benedict in Liberia, we have no record of a debate. In 1975, William R. Tolbert was the only candidate for the election, so obviously there was no debate. The first multi-party elections in Liberia was 1985. There was no debate. And then the war elections in 1997 as well, there was no debate. And then our first post-war elections in 2005, there was some form of presidential debate where some of the candidates had open face-off, but obviously it was not a coordinated effort for everybody to be involved. And in 2011, there was no debate. 2017, there was some form of debate organized by the NEC, even though not all of the contenders agreed to participate. And then in 2017 elections, again, in general, midterm and by-elections, there are no legislative debates. So when we come to other levels of our society, and just in general with our social context. So let me stop there and go to our panelists directly with our first, I like to call it our first question, if you don't mind. And the first question is, what is debate? From your perspective, what will you define as debate? Zui, I will go with you first.
Okay, so when I look at debate from my perspective is a respectful engagement between people, between individuals on a particular topic or subject. And I think it can be either common view or different views. And each person or persons bringing in their perspective, either based on facts, based on their own experiences or their own analysis of the situation.
Thank you very much. Kevin, I will take it straight and say, why is debate even important? Not just in our democracy, but even in our society. Why would you say debate first of all, is it important? And if so, why?
Thank you, Leo. Debate is quite important in our society, at the national level, at the local level, at the community level, even in our households. Debate is important because it informs so many processes. So debate informs our day-to-day lives. Debate informs our policy making. And debate informs the way in which we hold our leaders accountable and the way in which our leaders themselves perceive to hold themselves accountable, knowing that we are informed of the issues that should drive their decision making. And so in a very short context, debate is what drives our development as a nation. And so it is very important that we have debate at all levels in Liberia.
Thank you, Kevin. Robert, why does it matter? Why can we not just function? Why is debate something that should matter when it comes to Liberia, whether it's within our democracy or in our society in general?
Well, it matters because we live in a society where people comes from different backgrounds. We also live in a society where people, both traditionally religious or what have you. We also live in a society where people have different philosophies, right? People have different ideologies, and people are from different affiliates as far as politics is concerned. But it matters even more so to a country and a society as a whole, because it's an opportunity that those who are seeking offices or those who are aspiring to be leaders, it gives us a glimpse of foundational character traits and who they truly are, and where they stand on certain issues and why they should be the one elected to be whatever office they're applying for. So it's critically important that not only we debate the issues, but we debate them very, very respectfully.
Thank you. Zui, I will ask you this question, because often in our society, when we think about these things like debates and other conversations, it's often just limited most of the times to political leaders. It's the only standard that people use to measure. And people often evaluate, criticize, scrutinize leaders, sometimes without even realizing that they too have responsibilities living in the society itself. So from your perspective, would you say debate is just as equally as important for voters as well, or citizens of the country as well, when it comes to the general functionality of society? And if you think it is important for citizens and voters, then why?
Well, from my own perspective, I think that debate is important for citizens as well. Actually, more important for citizens than anything else, because the leaders today were once citizens. They were once children. They once belonged to a family unit. And so debate actually should start in every fabric of our society. Because just to add to what Kelvin and Robert talked about, not only does it foster engagement, it allows us the opportunity to view other perspectives that we would normally not associate with. And when that happens, it opens room for critical thinking. It opens more room for people to be able to look at a situation other than the way you see it and define reasonings around why other people see it that way. So I don't think it's just only leaders, because if we as citizens and regular members of the society do not know how to respectfully engage each other, even when our leaders are debating, we really don't know what we're even looking for. What are the standards are we setting? What do we hold them to? What are the values? What are the norms? What is the structure around how we engage each other? So I believe that every fabric of the society debate is extremely important.
All right. So, Kevin, I will bring this question to you. First of all, I would, based on this, just the brief analysis that we've gone through, would you then agree that debate, as we've defined it properly, is absent from the Liberian society at all levels? Would you agree, or what is your thought or your take on that?
So I would not agree that debate as defined is absent in Liberia at all levels, because from my own background, I do not agree with the definition of debate that is given. So I would say that debate takes so many forms. So we have the formal process and we have the informal process. And in Liberia, we've had debate at all levels, and we continue to have debates at all levels. When I was in school in Liberia, in high school, in elementary, we had debates. In our churches, we have debates. On chemistry, we have debates all of the times. At our workplaces, we have debates. So I would say that Liberians are engaged into all forms of informal debates. The question then should be, do we have institutionalized formal debate in Liberia? And if so, how does that benefit us? If not, why and how can we try to institutionalize debate in Liberia to benefit us?
So I will push you a bit further, Kevin, before I leave you on that. If debate is so alive and active at all levels of Liberian society, then how come our society is so uninformed, so confrontational, so violent? And I personally follow most of the discussions, both in Liberia and when I'm present there and here. And I would say to you, I've been to Kerry Street and many other places. And unfortunately, I can tell you for a fact that most of the conversations, I would not even call some of them debates, to be honest with you, most of the conversations that we've heard has been people wanting to tower other people with what they believe their ideas are or not. So let me push you a little bit. How can a society that has active debate occurring like that be so misinformed at the same time?
Okay, so we really do not have active debates in Liberia. I was trying to say that we have some sort of passive debate in Liberia. And it's good to ask that question, because I'm going to draw three different processes of actually what I would call in development studies citizen engagement. So what we are having in Liberia is some form of normative debate, and it's manipulative. So in a form of normative debate or manipulative debate, we tend to show that we understand our national issues and we want to discuss those issues. But there are problems with this normative form of debate. We are either not well informed, or the process is manipulated by the political system such that it benefits the system and disadvantage the citizens themselves. And then we have another form of debate which to an extent has also taken place in Liberia, and that is the tokenistic form of debate. What that means is that our political leaders and even NGOs open the corridor to want to encourage citizens to engage issues and to debate issues. But the problem with that is that citizens discuss issues, but those issues for which citizens try to put forward are not, at the end of the day, informing decision-making. Take, for example, during the time of the development of the poverty reduction strategy. So the international community will tell you, you need to consult your people. That's a form of debate, right? You need to go down to the villages and ask people, what do you want in Liberia? How do you want Liberia to look like? So you engage in that consultative process. But when it comes to Monrovia, the problem is money. I mean, the result of the voices that are collected and manipulated such that what citizens say don't inform decisions in Liberia. Then that is tokenistic. So what we should be looking for in Liberia in form of a substantive debate is to see what we call citizen power. Debates that will inform our leaders to make decisions that actually inform policies. And that is what is lacking in Liberia. Right. A very concrete, institutionalized debate that will inform policy. And by informing policy, debates then draft us as a nation to tackle all of the challenges that we are having as a people, including our healthcare, including what sort of education system we want for ourselves, including how do we improve these educational systems. Right. But I agree with you 100% that in Liberia, our debates can be actually sometimes taken to the extreme, that sometimes when we have diverse views, people will come to confront you, to demonize you, to actually excoriate you because you have an opposing view. And that is the problem that I have with our debating system in Liberia. But we have some sort of informal way of discussing issues. And we can build on that by institutionalizing that discussion to make it benefit the country.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. So Zui, I would throw the same, analysis at you. And I know Kevin talked a lot more about the levels of informing policy, informing governance, and people's voices and citizen voices and citizens' power. But I also just want to throw a caveat to let you guys know, I'm also just talking about even at the local community level, it's chaos. Even in the diaspora, you go to any Liberian community, try having a debate. It's chaos that's one level. Kevin addressed it, from the perspective of how governance processes and policies, participation with citizens' voices. But Zui, I will let you take a shot at it to see what are your thoughts on that?
I think to some extent, I do agree with Kelvin that we do debate in Liberia at different levels, and there are a lot of informal debates. I think the key question to really ask is, what is the purpose of debate when we actually do debate? What is the end goal of debate? Is it just to tell you how I feel about a particular topic? Or is it for us to find out one common thing that we share as a common norm and then discuss the differences of our perspectives and find a way forward for a more positive and holistic result? I think oftentimes when people debate in Liberia, even at the very local level, at the Kobo shops or wherever, there's never any defined structure around where is this debate going? Why are we even engaging each other? What is the end goal of this discussion? So it just becomes this, babbling back and forth, and who shouts the loudest and whose views are viewed the loudest. And so at the end of the day, technically, it seems like we're debating when all we're doing is actually just screaming with no purpose. So I would say, for me, when you look at it even from the social and the societal level as common as the family setting, we start off by not teaching our children how to debate. We start off in the homes by telling the children that when we tell you something, the fact that you try to even ask questions about those things or even go and do further research is seen as disrespectful. But guess what? These children will become men and women tomorrow. And when they get out there and they put forth their views and their perspectives, and somebody is asking them to tell me exactly why do you think that way? What happens when you get backed in a corner and you don't have any answer for what you're putting forth? It becomes confrontational. And so it's a circle that starts from the home and continues into the society and bleeds into our political atmosphere. It has engulfed the society so badly. So you cannot tackle the issue of debate from the highest level of politics and think that it will actually succeed when the very politicians you're talking about start from somewhere called the family setting These are the same people that grow to be our leaders. So debate for me, I think, is first starting to teach our children how to debate, the importance of debate, the purpose of debate, and then we will build a society that we can be able to debate in tomorrow. That's how I see it.
Thank you, Robert. So again, you guys, I'm a bit lost, but I'll come back to you guys with my follow-up questions. And when I mean lost, what I mean is that either there is debate or there is not debate, because again, what I'm hearing is there are discussions. I'm not denying, Liberia is active. It doesn't matter where you go, whether it's in the church or in the Kobo shop or at the Atai shops, it will not be lost on you that people are actively engaged in stuff. But again, if we look at the underlying characters of debate, right? What, like Zui said, is it who screams the most? Because most of the Liberian gatherings I go to, where some type of conversation is happening, debate is about who screams the most, or to the point of who insults the most, or who denigrates the most. So I will come back to you both for some follow-up on that piece. But Robert, I'll let you hear your take also on the question on the floor.
Well, I think Kevin and my sister, I think they adequately, lay out some very, very, very important points. Look, everything that we have in our country right now, I like to summarize it as a reflection of the lack of true institutions. I think Kevin pointed out institutionalizing debates from all levels, right? And so when you looked at, for instance, our politics and the debates, the few debates that we have socially at that level and in the informal side of the debates that we have, it's a true reflection of the lack of true political institutions in Liberia. When you looked at what my sister pointed out, charity begins at home. Take, for instance, Donald Trump. I mean, the entire world understands that Donald Trump doesn't understand the importance of debates. He doesn't understand the essence of it. And so he conducts himself the way he conducts himself because that's what he understands. He has not been taught on that level. And I think we can look at it from all perspectives. And it's very, very important, like my friend, my sister said, it starts at home. It starts in our schools. It starts in us understanding the importance of building institutions. When we was in high school back in Liberia, we did the quizzing. Focused on the debate team, on the quiz team. But every time I looked at it, it wasn't necessarily from my perspective. There was no structure to it. There was no, what's the end goal? Why are we doing this? It was mostly about us identifying at the end of that debate who we thought were smart, who was the smartest a kid based on how eloquently he or she spoke, how they responded to the questions and so forth and so on, and what happened afterwards. And so I think it's very, very important that we start from home, answering questions from our kids and not demanding that, yes, because I'm your father or your mother, you say, as I say, you have no right to ask me questions because sometimes people don't understand. And when we begin to tell them and educate them on why we are telling.
All right, Robert, we lost you there. We lost Robert there, so maybe I'll just come in and hopefully he comes back.
Set up that foundation is going to cost us a lot.
All right, Robert. Thank you. Thank you there. So let me ask this question before we move to my next question then. What we're seeing, almost I'll say engulfing the Liberian society. What is in the diaspora or back home in Liberia? Is it debate or is it propaganda? And the context of my question is, Robert, most of you talk about the end goal. Robert, especially talk about what's the point of this exercise, right? Is it to inform something or is it to maintain a certain thing regardless of what it is? Because I would say from my experience, I am confused between both, especially when we talk about informal debates or not. So I would like to hear your take quickly, just maybe a quick 1 minute. What we're seeing in Liberia, is it debate or is it propaganda? And whichever side you take, you can let me know why you think so.
It's not.
Okay, Robert, go ahead. I'll let you start.
I don't think it is debate. Debates just doesn't happen in the capital city, right? You talk about the few debates, presidential debates we had in Liberia. Moreover, like we've always said, it's not Liberia when it comes to institutionalizing what we are dealing with, and it's very important that when folks from that perspective are seeking offices at the highest level, it's important.
We seem to lost the audio there, Robert. I don't know. We keep having issues here, technical issues with you. Maybe put it on mute and unmute it and see. I think we got audio coming through. You want to speak? Let's see. Go ahead.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah, you're audible.
Thank you. And so I don't think I won't describe it, Leo, as a debate. I won't describe it as a debate. We talk about the issues. We gave our opinions on our personal and professional opinions on these issues. But there's no structure. There's no end goal. And like Kevin said, it doesn't inform decision making in our country.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. You want to take a quick 1 minute at it? Is
Yes.
it debate or propaganda? Go ahead.
Actually, I opened the Pandora box to get us thinking, right? People are listening to us.
Yes, you
You
did.
cannot just say there is no debate in Liberia. So we have different forms of informal discussions in Liberia. But when it comes to having actual debates that change our lives, actual debates that make us citizens. Now, so when you have discussions on national issues and you have actual debates, one of my professors once told me, debate changes citizens from being passive participants. It changed people from being population to active citizenship. In that context, where people come together to have discussions, to have debates, to hold our leaders accountable, to make our leaders to think ahead and think that, okay, people are listening to us and people are holding us accountable for what we say, and what people actually tell us are the decisions that we should be making. When it comes to that, I would say that we don't have that level of discussion in Liberia. And we need to start having that level of discussion in Liberia. To grow as a nation and to develop as a people.
Thank you, Kevin. Zui, I will let you take your stab at it. I think you heard the question before you went up, so I'll give you your 1 minute to quickly provide your feedback.
Yeah, so I think back to what Kelvin and Robert talked about, when it comes to debate, I like that we're talking about debate from different aspects and at different levels, both formal and informal. But when it comes to debate from a formal standpoint, a structured standpoint that influence governance, policies, and different levels of society, we've lost that. And I think that's that structure, that respect, that institutionalized debate that yields result at all levels of the society, especially in the political spectrum. I think it has been hijacked to some extent. That what defines debate in that context has been hijacked by different elements, such as the social economic, the social stratification and classes of people. So when I look at it, for me, most of the times I look at it like this. There's not even really a structured debate. There is an association with what we see as a quick fix. So if there is a perspective out there that seems like a quick solution, then I identify with that and I block everything else that could impede that process. That's what Liberia is when it comes to actually structured debate. So in that context, we really don't have anything.
Yeah, so that brings me then to a very important point. And there is this issue in the Liberian community. Like I said, when we talk about things, which is right, and we look at our governance structures, we look at our political leaders, and we draw analysis, we make evaluations of them based on what is happening or not happening. However, there is I don't know if you say a conscious or unconscious attitude now that we completely erased all the other levels, right? Because the government is the government, But there are so many levels in our society that is very powerful, actually, in informing what the population becomes, whether it's community associations, whether it's churches, mosques, other religions, or these subsets of the society that are actually more consistent than even the government, because the government changes hands all the time. Different leaders come in, right? But your church is your church. Your church has been there sometimes 20, 30, 40 years. It's still there consistently. Your mosque or your community association or whatever other, assemblies that you do. So then how come the issue of debate has escaped those other decision-making processes? I can say that because I've a part of few Liberian associations, and I can tell you that debates don't happen. It's a shouting match. Once there are opposing views in the meeting, it turns into a confrontational shouting match. So let's leave the government a little bit, at the policy level. Let's bring it practically to the social level. How come that has escaped us too? If maybe the government is not allowing citizen voices, maybe that's the reason why. Then what happened with the other layers of society as well? And Zui, I will start with you and I'll go the other. I'll try to give us like I know some of the questions are not 1 minute, but try your best to see here.
Okay, so from that perspective, and that goes back to what I said initially, debate from the context of the very fabric of our society, which is the home base. When you talked about the churches and the different society and different groups, recognize that all these local institutions, schools, and what have you, have people who come from within home environments. And I think the fundamental piece that we keep missing is you cannot fix something from the top without starting it from the beginning. So the fundamental piece is the home structure. And I continue to say that because, I grew up in a home where debate was very encouraged, 100%. If my father told me something, I was allowed to ask him the whys. I was allowed to give him my own opinion, my perspective, and he would challenge me to it, to tell him why I thought otherwise. Sometimes he would provoke that engagement. And I think that is the piece that is missing in most homes. Finding in our society is finding a way to be able to debate and yet keep it respectful. There is this understanding that debate equals confrontation. And until we can draw that line between what defines debate and where the line slips over from debate to confrontation, it will continue to spill over into the churches, the schools, and everywhere else.
Thank you. Now, instead of going to the same question, I'll ask another question. I know we touched on. If you want to, indicate something on any of these questions, please go ahead. But Robert, who is responsible for the culture of no debate? And I wouldn't say no debate because some of my panelists have said, there are different forms of debates that happen depending on what background you are coming from and looking at it. So let's say, who is responsible for the inefficiency of debate, or for it not being institutionalized in Liberia, both at the government level and at other levels, both at the government as well? Who's responsible? Who can we say is responsible, or what is responsible for that? Robert, you can go ahead, and then I'll come to you, Kevin.
I think all of us are. I don't think you can pinpoint to a particular a person or a particular individual. I think all of us are responsible for it. I just wanted to piggyback on Kevin's. Kevin was very adamant that we can't say that there's no debate in Liberia because we do have some debates in Liberia. But Kevin, I just wanted to point it out. If we do have some debates in Liberia, and by that I mean, I think you are alluding to the social media and some of the debates we have, at some intellectual centers and different parts of Liberia. If the structure is missing, if the structure that defines what we are debating about, if that is missing, the end goal, some of what we are actually talked about, then and if it doesn't, like you rightly said, if it doesn't affect decision making or policies across the country or our lives, then I don't think there's a debate because it doesn't do anything to us personally, our country, the development of our country. It does nothing, and so it's difficult to I'm more often involved. I get involved in social media debates and different things like that. But I must say, not a lot of us are actually debating the issues based on what we actually believe from an institutional perspective. I like to make an example, distinction when it comes to of people who have fundamental, different beliefs, ideologies. When you look at the Republicans and the Democrats on all aspects of life, whether it's education, whether it's the economy, whether it's healthcare, on every fundamental key issues that affects families in this country, they have different viewpoints, and these are things that they strongly believe in, and they stand by. In Liberia, it's different. I can have an opinion on what I think is going on with Leo today, and tomorrow I can have a different opinion with Kevin, because today Leo and I have no relationship. And one last.
We lost the audio there again, Robert. I don't know why. Whatever you did the last time to get it back, please do. Kevin, you want to jump in while we're waiting for Robert to get back in? You're on mute, Kevin. You're muted. You're muted, Kevin.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So I just want to quickly come back to what Robert said. We've all acknowledged that we lack formal institutionalized debate in Liberia. I actually introduced the fact that we have some sort of discussion in Liberia, and there's a reason for that. Every institution in this world has evolved. And when you evolve, you start from somewhere. So I just wanted to acknowledge that at least we have some things from somewhere that we can start from. So we have forms of discussions in Liberia.
Okay, Kevin, let me hold you there. You say every institution has evolved, right? But
yeah,
if this is not an institution, so if it's not even organized, go ahead.
The point I'm making is that institutions evolve, right? So to evolve, you have to start from somewhere. Okay? So I'm just acknowledging that we have all sorts of discussions and all sorts of informalities in Liberia when it comes to debate, right? And it will be easier to recognize that so that we can know how to structure those discussions instead of just say in a blanket form that we don't have debates in Liberia. So that was my point. Now, that aside, we've all have agreed that we lack formal institutionalized debate in Liberia. And to the question of why and who to be blamed, I think Zuri and Rabo have said it rightly, that we are all to be blamed. But I would take it further to say that one of the problems we have is the lack of equality at all levels. Sometimes when we talk about equality, people look at money. But I'm talking about this in a form where equality and inequality actually impact people's ideas and people's minds to think for themselves. So poverty in Liberia, and I wouldn't say it's institutionalized, but the fact that people are unequal in most of our societies in Liberia. Economically, you have people struggling. Education-wise, you have, that's just completely lacking. So the structure that we have in Liberia that has deepened inequality has a serious impact on how we think in Liberia and how then that thinking goes into informing what we do as a nation. That's why I talk about normative form of debate, and then when to talk about what, elaborate on what is generally termed tokenistic form of citizen participation. So what is happening is that because we have this huge deficit in how we actually are able to think as a people, the system then is manipulated by those in power. Okay? That's why today, if you go in any setting in Liberia, you have politicians, whether it is a local politician or at the national level, they have people that they control. They control their minds. Do you know why they control their minds? Because those people do not have the capacity, at the majority level, do not have the capacity to think that we are the one who are the power holders. And we are the one who make decisions for those people who give us the money. So, for example, if you, during campaign time, if you come to give me a bag of rice, I mean, come on. How do I know? How do I have the sophistication to know that that bag of rice you're giving me to continue to put you in power actually belongs to me? Okay, so the issue of poverty, which are tied to inequality, we will have the problems, but that issue of poverty that has actually weakened our capacity as a people to think deepens the lack of debate in Liberia. And I think that needs to be addressed. Because when people have the mind to think for themselves, they make decisions. Right. But I mean, people's minds are controlled because they don't have it. And those who have it control their minds. And that is one of the problems that we are having. And that is affecting how we discuss issues in Liberia and how we will grow as a nation.
Thank you, Kevin. So let me take this thing to one one step, right? Should all elected offices in Liberia, right? I'm saying elected because usually those are the ones that come with a lot of power and a lot of responsibilities, usually the elected ones. Appointed ones usually are serving at the will and pleasure of somebody. And, most of the time, somebody has the power to remove you or fire you. But when you're elected, it's a whole different ball game. So should all elected offices, so I'm talking about everything, whether it's president, vice president, representatives, senators, all the elected offices that we do have within our governance structure, should these offices be subject to debate? If we think debate is this important, based on what I'm hearing from you guys, that it starts from the home, it should build up because it's important for decision making, to inform decision making, we should be the goal. Do you think then debate or all candidates for elected offices should be subject to debates? If so, why? If not, why? I will start with you, Zui, since you just came back. I think Robert is trying to join us back, but Zui, go ahead.
For me, most definitely. I definitely think that, especially for elected offices, that candidates for elected offices should actually be allowed to debate. There should be a structured debate around their policies, what they intend to do for the people they are going to govern. And one of the key reasons for that is it does a couple of things. It builds trust. It establishes accountability, because during the process of debate, you get the opportunity to understand the perspective of somebody. You understand not just their policy, their moral, their character standing on a lot of different issues. And if that person is capable of debating their views and what they are capable of doing in a debate format, you have something that you can hold them to. You have something that you can think about. You have something that you can analyze and weigh your options between how does this person best serve my interests long-term or serve the country long-term. In the absence of that, there's nothing to go off of. Going back to Kelvin, other than a low back or rice or whatever is being thrown at you for short-term goals. So for me, most definitely, I believe that elected offices should definitely be held accountable to structured debate and allow the people that deserve the opportunity to use those forums to make decisions for themselves.
Thank you. No, Robert, you just got back. The question we have on here was, should all elected offices be, if we said debate is this important, especially when it comes to decision making and the rest of it that you've all have outlined tonight, should all elected offices be subject to debates? And especially I'm leaning on elected offices more because appointed is a whole different case. What is your take, sir? If yes, why? If no, why?
Absolutely, absolutely. Every, as I stated earlier, every person who wants to it's like an interview, right? When we apply for jobs, we go through the interview process, and there are many phases to the interview process, right? And you have to understand that you are not the only candidate for that position in which you seek, and you have to make your case outside of your resume. You have to make your case as to why you are the candidate that should be picked for that position, and that case has to be made. And we look at your experiences. People look at our experiences. We looked at what we bring to the table. Of course, we looked at our qualifications for that job, and based on those merits, decisions are made. And so elected offices should not be seen in a different way. Every candidate, not just from the presidential perspective, but mayors. When we start actually electing our mayors and superintendents and so forth and so on. Every single person who expresses interest in leadership in Liberia, of course, should be mandated to a debate, and they should be obligated to tell us why they are the candidate, why they should be the one pick for that job. And it shouldn't be based on friendship and who you know and based on your relationship. It should be based on the issues.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert. Kevin, I'll come to you, but I want to take another question. You can indicate if you want to throw light on that, you can do that in your answer. Now, according to what you guys have said here, and, mostly by and large, that there is some form of debate. And, it may not be structured or organized or, in fact, the way it's supposed to be, but informally, when you walk around the country, when you talk to Liberians, there is some type of conversations going on with the underlying tune of a debate in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's done properly or not, I know Robert is a bit on the other side, but my question then is, in the last election and in other elections, we've heard any other decision-making processes, we've heard this famous phrase, that debate we will eat. If people in Liberia, or if us Liberians, those of us that are Liberians, if we think debate is important, and, based on what I'm hearing, if it is part somehow of our society, then how come can the same people stand up and say that debate we will eat and we don't need, in essence, basically saying it's irrelevant to our process? Kevin, I will start with you and I will come the other side. You are muted, Kevin. You need to unmute your microphone.
Are you hearing me? That was an unfortunate statement. I can quite remember the then education minister, George Wisler, and I had a very heated debate on that because when he wrote a statement about, that book, We Will Eat, book, something like in that direction, that book does nothing, we had a discussion on it because I told him that when you are an education minister and you make such an unfortunate statement, it doesn't only hurt our country today, it hurts our country forever, because you are telling the little ones in school that no matter what they're doing in school, their voices are not important in society. So I think that's what I said today, that our problem is that we are manipulated in Liberia because we have deficits in how we think and how we treat each other. The political system has managed to benefit from that. And so they always want to hold on to the status quo. And that is the problem we are having. In order for Liberia to transcend above the current deficit, we need to have our politicians. Of course, it's important to have a debate. It's important for all elected offices to have debate. But then we need to take a step further. We need to have our politicians giving credence to debate. And then we need to have them been held accountable that whenever you have a debate, issues that citizens discuss should not just be taken as surface. Those discussions or the promises that you make to citizens should actually inform how you govern. Nelson Mandela once said, debates help to make leaders to think forward. And I always think about that. Debates does not make a leader, a serious leader, to say that I'm going to give you a bag of rice to vote for me. And the citizens don't question that. Debates allow leaders to sit today and think that, okay, citizens have been thinking about a breach in Grand Jada County. They have been thinking about the lack of cleanliness in Maryland County. If I want to be a representative, am I thinking about just how I'm going to give them a few dollars and a bag of rice to put me in office? Or am I going to put out there a vision that allows citizens to see that in next 2 or 3 years, this is how their lives are going to be like?
Thank you.
And I think that is what is important. That is what is lacking in Liberia. And the political system needs to help, instead of just benefiting from the system, they need to help to change the system.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. I will go the other way with you, Zui, and I'll say you can throw light on that point as well if you want to. But here is another thing I'll layer on that. Liberia has a very interesting dichotomy. And, we have a group of Liberians that are educated, who had the opportunities to go to school, And, some went to very good schools when you see some of the universities that, Liberians graduated from. And some have some pretty impressive achievements under their belts, some of a lot of Liberians. But then you go to Liberia, and for example, with elections, right? You hear the what I would call conversations. I don't like to call it debates, right? We see people arguing about, and some of our best and brightest arguing about why the representative did not build school, or why the senator not build a road, or what did the senator do, or whatever. We hear our brilliant minds talking about everything else except what really the debate should be about as it relates to the job description of a particular job. Again, I'm drilling down this point. If those of us who call ourselves, and that have had the chance to be exposed and become educated, and many times people look up to us when we speak because people believe that we've been lucky enough, to get a certain level of education. If we are the ones contextualizing the debate in the consistent way it is, then my question then it becomes, do we really have, again, I'm drilling back to the issue of debate in Liberia, or do we have propaganda? And you can throw light, on the previous question that was on the floor, or whichever way you decide to go is actually up to you.
Okay, so I'll touch on it both ends, because I think Kelvin covered it in depth. Now, the question you just asked goes back to what Kelvin talked about a few seconds ago. People will, and that is a normal thing in every society. People will take advantage of ignorance. People will take advantage of systems that work to their benefits. So when you look at talking about Liberians who are educated and who you expect a certain behavior from, and you see them following the same trend continuously, it's not every Liberian. Let's clear that first. You still have a lot of well-intended Liberians whose goal and purpose is to help move the country forward. And you still have these few who do everything they can to take advantage of the existing system. Now, the structure around debate, again, why would somebody who's educated, to your point, who should know better and will continue peddling this format that has yielded nothing positive? It comes down to convenience. Does it serve that person's best interest? And again, back to what we talked about in the very first question, what in fact is the goal of debate when we debate? What is the goal? Because the fact that we're having something that looks like a debate, or we're having a conversation that goes back and forth without any established goal of where we want to go as a people, as a nation, as an office, whatever it is that we're debating about. You cannot have a debate in the absence of an end goal. If the end goal is to make decisions, if the end goal is to make policies, if the end goal, there has to be an end goal. So yes, the structure of debate, I don't know if I would term it as propaganda, Leo. I think I still hold on to the fact that it's an issue of not understanding exactly what we're even debating about. I think we have lost the meaning of debate in Liberia.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Zui. Robert, let me let you, I'm jumping here quickly, but I also want to initiate the question as to how. And, we've talked a little bit about the problem heavily here. I don't want to leave without talking about some solutions. And as we hinted at some, talking about from the family, from the home, laying down some of the foundations. But let's take it to the institutional level in the short term, because what Zui is talking about, in my opinion, is a long-term, practical solution as to where you start. But what about the short term? How then can we start to address this issue, of the current landscape of debate in Liberia, some of which you all have brilliantly pointed out. Robert, I will start with you, and then I will go on the other side.
Thank you. I will start with a quote. I think Kevin mentioned Nelson Mandela, and this quote came to mind when he spoke about the debate, and I think it summarizes the importance of that. He said, "A good leader can engage in the debate frankly and thoroughly, and knowing that at the end, he and the other side must be closer, and thus emerge stronger. You don't have that idea when you are arrogant, superficial, and uninformed." And it summarizes what we currently have in Liberia. Those that are aspiring to lead us are not only illiterate, they're arrogant and uninformed. And so they're not interested. What the question what are they debating about? What information do they have?
what vision do they have that would interest them enough to want to publicly express that? If I have a vision, if I have an idea that I think will move a community forward or a country forward, why wouldn't I be so excited to want the entire world to know that I did it, right? But unfortunately, we have people in the system that have enabled popularity, that have enabled things that got us to where we are right now. And so, to touch on the solution, I think a part of how we would solve this problem is we have to start from our homes and education, where we do a lot. We have to start informing our citizens about how powerful they are when it comes to where our country moves forward, when it comes to the next 6 months, the next 6 years, or the next 9 years, the power they have in setting that tone. And it has to reflect in our education, in our youth, our young people. They have to understand that. And I know things are tough, and people more often say that debate we will eat. People say those things. People say those things. I'm sorry, I had a call coming in. People say those things because they just don't understand their value. They don't understand how important they are in the society. In Liberia, we looked at politicians as our guys. We looked at politicians as our bosses, when in fact, we are their bosses. They report to us. They account to us. We hold them accountable. We pay them their salaries and things like that. So we have to change the mindset. Education has a lot to do with it, and getting that information across the country. Thank you, Robert. Kevin, before you come in there, just add a layer. And I like layering it because I know you guys are great in like throwing lights on the different angles of it. I've been quoted as saying everybody in Liberia has decided to analyze voodoo economics. And this is the context of it. The Liberian government budget has always been around 500 million and change, right? 535, 532, up and down. And we've always had I can't remember which year we did not have a budget shortfall, by the way, since post-war Liberia. It's like every year we've consistently all have to recast the budget. Kevin, how can we be in a country and, debating our governance systems, and we all tend to agree that it is possible to solve healthcare, education, security with 535 million. If you divide 535 million by 5 million people, that's about $100 per person for the entire year, right? And the reason I'm asking this question, again, coming back to the issue of debate, everybody has been having a conversation about how they can use this money. Our leaders are telling us that they are able to solve security, healthcare, one university, 535 million is one university's budget. Some universities' budget are even bigger than the 535 million. So again, the issue of debate. How come I've listened to renowned Liberian economists and people, and I haven't heard anybody admit the fact that it is impossible for anybody or a government to be able to scratch the surface of Liberia's problem with 535 million. How does that tie into our conversation? Now, everybody seems to think they can spend this money better than the other person and it will yield the necessary outcomes. Kevin, I will let you go at it. And you can throw lights on the other ones as well.
Yeah, and that's an interesting question because it ties into what I was talking about, the government or our political leaders trying to manipulate the system to their advantage. This is the reverse of it. Because you fail to have discussions, because you fail to open the platform for people to actually understand how a country is run and what goes into running a country. You have a budget that is always below 500 million. And every Liberian thinks that this 500 million budget will solve all of our problems, not even in a term, but just within a year's time. Yeah. And that is why Liberia has become so polarized, because everyone thinks that the government is not doing better. And the government's failure to also explain to people that this is really where we are. For example, this is where we are. This budget, this $500 million budget needs to grow, right? How do we grow that? How do you try to have a discussion with citizens
that, for example, expanding the tax base is important. How do you actually engage people to encourage them that every time there is a public institution, there is something that the government spend money on, it is to be preserved because that is the citizens' money. How do you explain to people that this is how governance is, and this is how we as a nation need to move forward? And so that question comes right back to the government to tell the government, or our political leaders, that you see, this is what is important for us as a nation to discuss our national issues, including our budget. Because when people understand that $500 million is like nothing to actually solve the Liberia's problem, they will not every day wake up from bed and blame, for example, President Weah or any person that comes in when our issues are not resolved.
Thank you. And that's why I call it voodoo economics, in my opinion, anyway, because it doesn't make sense how you can defy 500 million and it will solve all those issues. But let me layer this, and Zui, you can come in and again take it from any angle that you really want, that you're looking at. But let me even layer it based on the overview of the elections and electing our leaders in Liberia. Very few have ever had any form of debate. I'm not even talking about well structured, organized, but any form of it. So then let me ask, how does it make sense that all of a sudden we find all of our educated analysts who then are asking government to be accountable for things that nobody discussed, right? Because if you're running for an office, usually you come out and you lay out a platform, how you're going to do it. There are debates and arguments for you to clarify what that means, so that when you get there, we don't need to go look for anything to hold you accountable for. We just need to look at exactly what you laid out. And you can say someone misunderstood you because there were debates, that made you clarify what that meant, or if you're honest about it. So then how come we continue to hold our leaders to this very high standards, especially the educated class, let me put it that way, when the truth is none of the same educated class talked about the importance or cemented the pressure that we needed to make sure debates occur so that we can hear and understand before we go to hold someone. Like, Kevin never told me he would buy me a car. Why am I going to fight Kevin because Kevin didn't buy me a car and he got money? I heard Kevin got money and Kevin didn't buy me a car when Kevin did not promise me to buy a car. But Zui, I can let you go at it from whatever angle that you see.
I think in part you already answered that question. It comes down to expectations, right? And that's where talking about debate and the importance of debate, because in the absence of debate, there are definitely sometimes unrealistic expectations. And in the initial framework of that, not debating, for example, without naming anybody particular, people, our leaders who see debate as the lack of debate as an easier way or shortcut to avoid answering the hard questions, at the time it's convenient for them, right? And back to the everyday people who really don't understand the importance of debate and don't ask the questions, but they do have expectations. They expect certain things to be done. They expect certain accomplishments. And then when those accomplishments are not met, guess what happens? Then the leaders do not want to be held accountable for what those expectations are. So, when you think about it, it's a continuous circle of when it's convenient for me. And back to what Kelvin said, I think it was Kelvin or Robert pointed out solution in terms of how do we address the situation. It starts with from those that govern us to those that are being governed. Understanding the importance of their voices, understanding the importance of debate. What does it bring to the table? How does it answer most of the hard questions? And that's what we're missing. That's a question that you can't even answer right now. Why do educated people, will keep pushing for something? There's no answer to that other than convenience. It's about when it's convenient for me and it yields something for me in that time, I support it. And then when it's not, then I want to ask the questions and I want to get an answer. That's exactly what it is. But I think the bigger question is not why do they do what they do? The bigger question is how do we get to that point? How do we get past this place where we are at a place where we can hold our leaders accountable and we can get to that place where our leaders feel obligated to provide us the information that we need to make informed decisions as to who represent us. And all of that comes through these debate engagements.
Thank you, Zui. Robert, I will come to you, but I will layer something else here. And I just want to, I hear people in Liberia say all the time, oh, decrease government official salary, cut expenditure and whatever, and they equate that to meaning the budget will increase. So I just remind them, no, it's the same 500 million. You're just talking about how to allocate it. We're not talking about, yeah, I agree. And, pay people according to how it should be properly. But that same 500 million cutting people's salaries and spending less on other things doesn't mean the 500 million will increase. It just means you have more ability maybe to reallocate money to somewhere else. But truth be told, if there is no corruption in Liberia, everything is going well, 500 million is not realistic and practical to tackle the deeply entrenched problems that we have, from broken infrastructures to road and everything. But Mr. Gagwa, let me put it to you. We have a very important historic thing coming up. It's a referendum. And the referendum is not political. It's not for any particular group. It's supposed to be a decision-making process that governs everybody. And, doesn't matter what political stripe you wear or not, because a referendum is changing our constitution most of the time that will affect the ruling party, the opposition, the apolitical people. Everybody will be affected. And now, December 8th is supposed to be the vote. And up to this point, majority of Liberians don't even know what the counts of the referendum are. And what is it that is being changed? What is it in this constitution that has a problem? One of it we've heard a little bit about, and that's the one that has to do with dual citizenship. And it's because it's been more contentious. And we still having, I keep asking people, where is the source? And if I just wanted to go get a copy of the referendum, you would think it should be something that's so available, right? So talking to debate, again, December 8th is right here. We're almost in November. Again, what danger does this pose to our society as a whole, that we are making these type of very important decisions that are not easy to overturn, because the Constitution is not an easy thing to change? How dangerous is this for our society? Robert, I will start with you.
It's very dangerous, and before I even answer, it's very, very dangerous. Before I even answer that, I think you raised an important point, which was the Voodoo budget. I'm not an economist, but I heard the finance minister, who have been seen as eloquent and very smart guy when it comes to that field, made the argument in one of the informal debates to voters, and it was in regards to the cutting of lawmakers' salaries. And I think Dylan made a proposal that the lawmakers should get paid $5,000 instead of $15,000. And he said, and I quote, well, if lawmakers, even though they've already got a 31% cut in their salaries and other allowances, if you then reduce their salaries to $5,000 or $15,000, he said directly in that quote, they are taking away your money. And he made that statement with in regards to the fact that the system, if I came from a district and I'm running for office, I'm not more focused on the textbook definition of my core responsibilities as a lawmaker. I'm more focused on what I can provide from a humanitarian perspective. We have more humanitarian lawmakers in Liberia today than actually legislators, folks who are to legislate. And it has become the norm. And so when you have the chief economist in the country make such a what I found to be an insane statement, that if you reduce lawmakers' salary, you are somehow taking away the people's money, because they rely on lawmakers for school fees. They rely on lawmakers to buy them bag of rice, to feed them. They rely on lawmakers for essentially everything. Tells you where we are. And look at the government in our country. The private sector is dead. The government in Liberia is not only hugely dependent on everything is the government's fault, but the government remains the highest employer in the entire country. Look at our education system. Everyone is doing political science. Everyone is doing business. Everyone is doing things that does not. I mean, you don't.
So don't go after my political science people. But that's the point.
Yeah. Everyone is doing things that opportunities does not. We don't have the environment that provides those opportunities. And so again, it's a system. It's a system. We have to change the system. We have to change the mindset. We have to start investing in building institutions, right? And like you said, if everything was going well in Liberia, no corruption, money was being spent accordingly. Look, how many percent of the budget goes towards salaries in Liberia? How many goes towards education? How many goes towards healthcare? If everything was okay in Liberia, $500 and something $million, it does absolutely nothing. So imagine what that does now that the corruption rate is so high in our country. It's a sad situation. I think we can definitely do better.
We'll shortly be going to the phone lines. I'll be going on my technical people in the back here shortly to hear from some of our viewers. But before we do that, I will come to Kevin to throw light on the 10,000 things I just put out there in different ways, shape, and form. So, Kevin, please go for it.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. I think what I was spoke to is just one of the problems. And it's just one of the reasons why we as a people need to have debates in our country, why we need to debate issues that affect our daily lives. I don't want to call a specific lawmaker, but I listened to one of the lawmakers when this issue of salary reduction was made. I have not looked into the pros and cons of that, but the lawmaker made an unfortunate statement that, oh, do you know how many of my constituents come to me, I'm going to get my salary?
That's right.
I sat down and asked myself, is this Liberia? That people would think that citizens would depend on the salary of a lawmaker, and that is
some feedback here. People in the background are technical. All right, I think they fix it. Kevin.
Okay. So just in a nutshell, I was just saying that statement was unfortunate, and that tells you the state at which we are, and at this, the level at which our people are manipulated. The discussion should be, how do I create jobs for my people in my district that they will be self-sufficient? The discussion on what a lawmaker is paid should not be based on my citizens will come to me for school fees. And like I said from the beginning, this is the reason why Liberia is the way it is, because the system is manipulated such that we make the people dependent on us. And once you are dependent on someone, your independent thinking becomes affected. That's right. Think that if you say something against the system or against a particular leader, then you don't get what you are supposed to be getting. Absolutely. And that is a governance failure.
Yeah, thank you.
And this is the more reason why this one issue and so many issues that affect our society. It's the more reason why citizens need to engage into discussing what our national problems are and how we can go about, in general, addressing those issues.
Thanks, Kevin. Do we have our technical crew in the back here to see if we can go maybe to the phone lines, if we can take a few calls? I will come back to you all to do your closing statement, but I will also have one question that all of you will have to answer for me before we leave from here tonight. But are we there? Anthony, Mr. Anthony C.A., are you there? Okay, so people, we are set to start taking calls. So please start to put in your calls now. And if you want to contribute or you have questions for any of our panelists, or maybe they said something that you're not clear about, you want them to elaborate, the numbers are just under there for you. So you don't need to ask, just look on the live if you're watching. The number is there. You can put in your calls. While we wait for some calls to come in, I'll ask one question that I want all of you to just answer for me. If you were called today by the Liberian government, and the Liberian government said, debate, the issue of no debate is a problem, and, in our governance structures and how we select our leaders. So we need you as a consultant to help us understand what is one thing we can do that is effective to get this process started of embracing and encouraging debate. And you were hired. What is one solution, or if you have more than one, but I want to keep it short to 1 minute. What will you recommend, and that should be cultivated in order to achieve this goal of embracing debate in our politics, social fabrics of society, and everything? Zui, I will start with you, and then I will go across the board.
Okay, so I will keep it at one. One solution first will be the government will be first mandating debate as a part of the process, especially for elected officials, and then creating some sensitization around that with the general public as to why this is being implemented and why it is important that they get the opportunity to hear and understand the perspectives of those who will be governing them. And once people understand that their viewpoints mattered and that their voices mattered and that the government care about that, that would be now I won't say a first time, but that is something that captivates people to want to be a part of something, knowing that they are included. That inclusiveness will actually be something that I think they will embrace. So that would be the first step, mandating that as part of the process.
Thank you very much, Zui. So those of you who are listening, these are some practical solutions that have come to you. And again, the numbers are on there. Once you call, our crew in the back end will be able to get you settled in and just put you on hold as we come to you. Robert, please, same question that I just gave to Zui. If you were in that situation right now, what is one practical suggestion or recommendation you would make?
You know, I'm not a quick fix kind of guy, right? I'm not a quick fix guy. I like things
I'm not asking for a quick fix. It can even be long term. I just want to know what recommendation will you make?
Well, the recommendation I will make is let's invest in our education across the board with regards to allowing the public to understand.
Robert, let me hold you there. I agree, but let's be honest. We have an urgent short-term problem. We have a referendum coming. We have elections coming. 2023 again, we'll be going to the ballot box. So are we saying we should just let it be like this while we wait for the long term? So I'm asking you for the short term as we face this very troubling situation.
But you see, Leo, it's tough for me to answer that question because as we speak right now, when we talk about debates is in Monrovia. When we talk about the referendum coming up, how many people in the counties actually knows exactly what's on the ballot? How many people outside of outside? And so I would like to suggest a solution, but that solution doesn't fix the problem right now. It will be a formality.
So is it fair to say that you're telling me there is no solution to the short-term problem?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Other than if we are willing, people cannot vote on things they have no idea about. If you go to the ballot, and if you have a referendum and people go to go vote, and they're not voting on their conscience, they're not voting because they understand that which they are voting for. They're not voting because it interests them, but on the ideas, on the instructions of an individual, then it defeats the purpose. And so I like my sister's suggestion, but I would have nothing to add to that as far as if I was called right now and I was asked, what would be your suggestion? Because we have a fundamental issue right now, and that in order to fix that, we have to start from the stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Kevin, in 1 minute quickly, and then we'll go to Anthony to see if we have some calls.
Yes, so I will agree with Robert. There is no quick fix, especially if even in a year's time there is no quick fix. But Robert spoke about education. Zui spoke about governance issues, like government making available the means for public debate. But I will go down to the grassroots, and I would say that what I would do is try to develop a strong COS in Liberia, like civil service organizations in Liberia. Okay. Any country that has developed, any country that has overcome challenges, has done so with a strong COS. Because the issue of addressing national challenges have to do with actually understanding what the people's voices are, what their demands are, what their concerns are, but then also factoring those concerns and people's actual voices into policies. The government alone, the government by itself would never, no government by itself can do that. Because the government is a political institution that serves people's interest. Okay. But when you have a strong COS, you will then have citizens' engagements. Okay. Right? I mean, I'm not talking about civil society organizations that go taking money from government.
Well, you said proper.
I'm talking about a strong society
where politicians listen to people's voice. So what I will do if I design a policy in Liberia to make debate stronger, I will build a stronger civil society that will then be able to engage our leadership and ensure that what the citizens want, actually what the government is giving to them.
But that would be for long term though, Kevin, right?
Of course. That's what I said.
Kevin said he was going long term.
This problem. There is no quick fix. In my opinion, there is no quick fix to this problem.
Thank you, Kevin. And I'm pretty sure Zui even said that from the beginning.
Yeah, and I do agree to that's definitely no quick fix.
But as leaders, let's be honest, you have a responsibility to deal with the problem in front of you. Right? Let's be honest. As much as we all like long-term solutions, but when you were in leadership, let's be honest, the crisis in front of you at the moment deserves a response. Why you are prioritizing the most important thing, which is the long term, you have to address the crisis somehow. So the question I asked was not meant to narrow or limit you just to that. But before we go further, let me ask Anthony, are you ready for us to do some calls, or you want me to take some, or you want our panelists to actually continue on the point before? All right, Steve, welcome to the show, my friend. Go ahead, my own good friend, Steve Bowley. Go ahead, you're live.
Thanks, Leo. Thanks to your panelists there. I think the conversation is critically important. And I also think that these are some of the discussions we should be having openly, and we should not be making it as secrets or talking on our tongues or in our throats. So I would recommend, first of all, to focus on Liberia if they could translate some of these things to our local dialects back home, so that when our people are watching, our Oman and our Papian watching, we can know what we're talking about and what's going on. I think that would be great. But my attention is drawn to this issue of quick fix. I might not use that term quick fix here, but I think it is critically important that we set some measures in place now in terms of addressing some of these things while we look up to the long-term goal. I think we are kicking this can down the road. This is why people feel emboldened. People are looking at different criminal strategies in order to do what they continue to do, because there is a build-up here. Now, I will recommend, honestly speaking, while we're waiting for this long-term things that we are thinking about, maybe our great-grandchildren will do it down the line, we'll hope so. But while we're waiting for this long-term phase, just most recently, the trucking issue in Liberia, people don't want to talk about it. That's exploitation. That's not right. I would recommend that people who are culpable, who are found guilty of these things, be banned from elections, maybe from participating in politics. And if we start to set some of these standards and we start to take some of these strong stands and measures, I think people will fall in line and we'll start to see some of these realistic fix that we're looking for. So that being said, my question to your panelists is this: where do we stand on the issue of accountability, and where do we stand on the issue of punishment for those who are doing this or who continue to do this and nothing has been done about it? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Steve. Anthony, just jot down the questions, guys. Just let me take a few more people before. So panelists, just keep the questions. Go ahead, Anthony. So Henry, we got you. Welcome to the show, Henry. You are live. Please go ahead, ask your question or make your point. Our panelists are listening.
Okay, I'm Henry Brisbane. I say thank you to you guys for coming out, taking your busy schedule. First of all, I listened to the last person that spoke, but I did not put down his name. But I have a question for all of you guys. I don't know your ages and things, but your faces tell me that you're young, more younger. But I have a question. Can you people come out? I know you people do your research before coming out. I heard him saying the lawmaker make decision for our voter because they pay them huge amount of money, and that in which it is true. But can you people come up and tell me who created a mess that we in presently now? Because I know during my day, my parents will not depend on lawmaker. Now people in a village will not depend on lawmaker. But can you people come up and tell us? I know you people do your research.
Yeah, okay.
The mess we in. Who created it?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Henry. So we got your question. Who created the mess that we're in now in terms of the situation? So guys, just keep your questions. I'll take a few and then I will let you guys go at them just instead of going back and forth. So do we have another caller on the line here? Yeah. So yeah, I'll keep an eye on it. So I'm Kevin. The first from Steve. I mean, somehow not directly on the topic, but I can tell how passionate he was in his voice. That accountability, the issue of accountability, and all punishment, right, for people in society who are caught doing all of the things that destroy our society to get it to where it is. But also he spoke of the issue of accountability, who's holding who accountable for what's actually happening. So you can take a stab at that.
All
Kevin.
Participants are muted and they can unmute themselves.
Kevin, go ahead. That's fine.
Yeah, so I think I will leave the issue of accountability to our legal system, but I will speak to accountability in a different form. But before that, he also asked about what are we doing now to address the current problem, maybe, for example, the referendum, right? And I would say that if we want a real quick fix, the problem will be creating sensitization. Like right now, we need information. We need to get on the radios. We need to get on the social media. We need to get on so many different medium of communication to be able to inform people that this is happening and this is going to affect us in this way or that way. So we need a massive campaign to inform people about what this referendum is about. That is the quick fix. Beyond that, everything else needs to be done systematically to inform Liberians on how to make decisions.
All right.
On the issue of accountability, I've said it from the beginning. Debate is important because it allows citizens to hold governments accountable, to hold our leaders accountable. The reason is because when we debate issues, we understand why we elect people.
Okay.
And because you already understand why you elected your leader, when that leader fails to, say, implement certain policy or implement certain decisions that you made, that leader then is held accountable because you know why you are holding him accountable. For example, if you, as a people in the village, agree that you need a hand pump, and XYZ person came and said, okay, I'll build you a hand pump, and another person said, I'm going to build your road, and you agree to elect the person who said they're going to build a hand pump for you, you now have at the back of your mind that in the term of that person's office, that person has to build a hand pump. So the reason you hold a person accountable is because you have a hand pump promised to you. You are not going to hold that person accountable because the person did not buy you car or did not buy you toilet.
Thank you.
Okay? The issue of accountability ties into this whole issue of, can we discuss as a people? Can we have a national discussion? Can we have a local discussion? Can we have a community discussion? And then can we agree on what our leaders are going to do for us?
Okay. All right. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you so much, Zui. I will let you go, Zui. And I know maybe at some point one of our panelists, Zui, might have to jump off just in case. But Zui, I'll let you take a stab at the questions, please.
I think kind of Calvin covered it from the perspective that I was looking at it, because on the issue of accountability is almost impossible in the absence of transparency and information. Those are two really important things. And transparency, going back to the issue, we're talking about debate and conversations and engagement and people having the information they need to make informed decisions about who they elect. That's where the issue of accountability starts. It starts with being informed and having access to, the beliefs, the policies, and everything that defines this person that's governing you. So in a nutshell, accountability is impossible in the absence of transparency and information.
I will come back to who created the mess. But do we have another call? I'll come to you, Robert. Do we have another call? Dropped off. Okay, so Robert, I know we'll talk about accountability piece also, but I'll come back to you guys. Who created the mess, Robert? Let's start with the other one. Who is responsible for the mess? One of our callers asked that.
That's an interesting question. Who is responsible for the mess? I think I used to not like the idea that whenever we spoke about the war, right? People always said we are all part of the issue, directly or indirectly, and I never liked that. But when you put things into perspective, I think somehow, some way, all of us are accountable to the mess. All of us created the mess one way or the other, right? And because there are things that we support that are part of the mess. And if you support things that are part of the mess, for instance, let me give you an example, right? There are people who today, and I'm going to name names, right, who believe that if Charles Taylor came back to Liberia today, Charles Taylor would get elected president of Liberia. And if you looked at the mess that we're in, I mean, the war played an integral part of the mindset that we have in our country today. And you cannot look at that and say, well, people like Charles Taylor, the Ellen Jones Sirleaf, and all of the other folks who were part of the whole negotiation and participated are not responsible in some way or the other. But are we rewarding them for what they did, or are we holding them accountable? Right. So the people themselves are part of that. And I think Steve Bullitt spoke about the trucking situation. We need to ban folks from participating. But to his question and to his concern, I agree with him. But how do we hold people accountable? People that we elect to uphold the laws are the ones actually breaking the laws. The folks that you see in those trucks are not the ones breaking the laws. People who purchase those trucks, people who are sending them out there to do the things that they do, are people who we elect to uphold the law. And so it's a very difficult situation when we have lawmakers breaking the laws, and we have people who the system that we trust to hold people accountable are not doing that. So it's difficult.
Okay, thank you, Robert. I will now, guys, time is up. The time goes by fast when the discussion is really good. So I will go around and get you guys to do your closing statements so we can kind of wrap it up. To those of you who were able to make it on, thank you. Those of you who could not, we say sorry. Join us again another time. Zui, I'll start with you. Please make your final closing statement here. Your phone is muted.
Sorry about that. I'm trying to find my mute button. Well, first, thank you for having me. Thank you to Focus on Liberia. And I think this is a very important discussion and engagement, and we probably need more of this. We all have one thing in common, regardless of our beliefs, religious background, orientation, education, and that is Liberia. That's the one thing we all have in common. And I think we need to go back to that point of redefining who we are as Liberians. What do we stand for? What do we hold as a common value and norm? And when we can identify that, firstly, as who are we when we say Liberia? What are the expectations around being a Liberian? It starts from that. Moving from that, when we can define that and we can find our common ground of having these debates or conversations and understand that it's okay to debate, it's okay to have an opposing view than somebody else. But at the end of the day, what is the end goal of the discussion? What do we hope to achieve? And how do we get there? So I continue to encourage Liberians, let's learn to have healthy discussions and understand that it is something that really helps to build this society forward. And it's something we need to be a part of more and more. And be more tolerant of others' perspective, because that's what matters. Listening to others, it's not just about a conversation. It forges critical thinking, it forges engagement, and it opens the opportunities for us to view things outside of what we are used to.
Thank you very much, Zui. Kevin Nyanswa, I would go ahead with your final comments here or your closing statement.
Thank you, Leo, for the time. And I also want to take this time to thank Focus on Liberia and our listening audience. This has been a very fruitful discussion and a very important one because it speaks to a critical issue that we are faced with in Liberia that we need to talk about more. This is just on the surface. I think we need to dive deeper into issues of debate because as a development specialist, I think that debate is one of the key issues that we need to focus on as a people. So what debate does is that it encourages accountability that we set. But more importantly, debate creates interconnection between leaders. So debate actually should also help to forge collaboration between our different political parties. And then it fuse into that tolerance, so as like we get rid of this risk of intolerance in our society. So we have a tolerant society because we are able to, even though we don't agree on issues, we have different ideologies, but then we are able to, as a people, to come together and actually have a discussion that will benefit us. I was talking with Leo just I think 2 days ago, and I was giving an example about a meeting I had in Mexico on community development. And the discussion was, if the different opposition parties and the government come on the same table and agree to build a school in a community, who benefits from that school? The politicians, children will benefit. The opposition, political leaders, children will benefit. The ordinary people will benefit. But if you do not want to discuss an issue, and just because you are part of a political party, thinking that by discussing that issue, you are talking about the party you belong to, then you are putting a party's interest in front of a national interest, which then is a serious problem. And so debate will cut into that whole mess and help us as a people to think forward. I mean, Liberia will not change the way we want it in our generation, but the little things that we do today to actually inform how we make decisions will go a long way in seeing the kind of Liberia that we want for our generation, the next generation to come. And so the issue of debate, I think, shouldn't stop here. It should be, one of the callers said, how do our old people in Liberia listen to this thing? There are a lot of civil organizations in Liberia, civil society organizations in Liberia. Rabo is working in Liberia. Maybe Rabo, those are issues that you need to take on with your colleagues. But we need a sustained engagement on how our people actually discuss the issue of national development in Liberia. And I thank you all for the opportunity. Zoe and Rabo, it has been great interacting with you guys. I hope that we will again one day meet on this platform to discuss issues that are interesting to us and that benefit Liberia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Robert, quick, wrap it up for us.
Very, very quick. I think Kevin and Zoe, that I think they made great closing statement and touched on some of the things that I was going to touch on. But I think it also helps with our in our debates for us to truly identify who we are. It's one thing for us to be affiliated with different political institutions, different religion and things like that. But it's another thing when in that process of debate, we understand what brings us together. We understand what unites us as Liberians, not as, tribal or religion, things like that, or the opposition ruling party, no position. It's in moments that requires all of us to come together, to keep our head down. What do we stand for? What are our values? And what are things that as Liberians that is our no-nos? And it helps a lot in our debate and how we respect each other's views and how we don't cross boundaries. Just because I don't agree with Leo, and so I think Leo is a bad person, or he's not a patriot. So I think it helps a lot, and I would like to thank Focus on Liberia for the invitation. I'm no stranger over here. I also like to thank Kevin and Zoe for such a great time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Robert. And I wouldn't say much. Again, my name is Leo Napolo Johnson. I will leave you tonight with this quote as a food for thought. And the quote is by Peter Hitchens, and it reads, "Is there any point in public debate in a society where hardly anyone has been taught how to think, while millions have been taught what to think?" I'll leave that with you tonight. Is your food for thought to all of our listeners. Again, good night. Have a great one. And it was awesome being here tonight. Thank you to all my panelists. Fabulous job. Fantastic discussions. And we will look forward to continuing this. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our